Good evening. Welcome. Welcome to the Private Property Farming Podcast. My name is Mbali Nwoko, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. Today is an exciting topic, and I've got a great guest who's a small-scale poultry farmer. And I'm quite curious to learn about his journey and how he started into poultry production, and basically just to find out how his business is doing. I know that there's a lot of interest from many of you watching at home today about poultry farming. I know I've definitely received a lot of DMs and questions coming from our YouTube channel as well for people wanting to know about poultry farming. So if poultry farming is your area of interest, especially going into agriculture as a commodity of choice, I definitely think that this episode is for you. So please feel free to ask our guest questions that you may have. And like I always say, we're always happy to answer your questions, and we're actually just here for you. We're here to serve you. We're here to give you enough information in your agricultural venture, and to also just give you insights in the agriculture industry and what farmers get up to on a daily basis. But before we get into our guest this evening, I just want to encourage you to continue to take part in our competition, which all the details are on our social media pages, our Sherlock Holmes competition. I believe this is now the final week that we have this competition running. And so this is an opportune time for you to just get some, your fingers cracking and your mind cracking as well, and see if you will be one of the winners for the competition, as your name will be announced on a weekly basis. But like I said, this is a final. We've got one more week to go for the competition, so good luck to everybody. Be sure to check out our website and our social media pages for more information on the Sherlock Holmes competition. I also just do want to say that we not only have the farming podcast within private property, we do have other podcasts specific to property. We have Zama, we have SD, and we have Chad throughout the week as well, and also the weekend, where we talk about property, whether you're a first-time home buyer, whether you want to grow your property portfolio investment, or you're looking for different show houses or showcases of different properties. I think we've got you covered here at the Private Property family. And I forgot to say that Happy New Month. I'm quite excited for a new quarter myself, and looking forward to what this new quarter has, and all the best to anybody watching has his own business and really wants to shift the gears up a bit. But to get into tonight's show, we're speaking to an entrepreneur, founder of Khondlo Poultry Farming, and his name is Emmanuel Gumede. Emmanuel, how are you doing? And thank you so much for joining us.
I'm very well, thanks, and yourself, Bali.
Awesome. I'm quite excited to talk to you because I follow you on Twitter quite religiously, and you're always talking about poultry farming, giving aspirant farmers or just new poultry farmers tips and tricks in terms of really how to become a success, or just basically start with the basics. But before we get into the nitty-gritty and the technical stuff with regards to poultry farming, tell us about your background, Emmanuel, and why you decided to start your farming business.
Okay, well, my name is Emmanuel Gumede. I'm from Durban, KZN. I'm 26 years of age, soon to be turning 27 in this month. Okay. Well, I grew up in Durban, and the reason why I decided on getting into poultry farming is because basically I was just roaming around the internet on YouTube. Then I saw these videos here, these chicken videos here. I was like, okay, this is interesting, because I don't remember that as I was growing up, during my early days, we had chickens at home, but at that time I did not understand what type of breed that we had at home. We just had chickens for what? For fun, basically. So this one day, I'm just roaming around the internet. Then I started developing this interest about chickens. Then I started doing research about chickens. What is chicken? What is this industry called? Then I started understanding it is poultry, and the rest is history, basically. That's how I started, and that was in 2019, around about March. Yeah.
Wow, that's not long ago.
Yeah.
Like shy of just 2 years now, 2019.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So how's it going so far? You did your research. You had a bit of poultry production going on back at home, and now you did your research just to understand, the more technical production side of things. What did you find out, and how did you begin to start your poultry production?
Okay, I started with 10 chicks. All right. So after watching a video, then the next day, then the next day, I had to find out where they actually sell chicks. So I went to this place here, and I said, okay, you know what? I'm looking for chicks. These chicks that I'm looking for, these are white chickens. All right. When they grow up, then they tend to be white, from yellow to white. So I didn't know the name of those chickens. All right, at first. So they told me, no, they're out of stock. Whatever they have left, I think uh, they had about 12, and I had about 800 rands, or 500 or 800 rands with me at that time on that day. Then I said, okay, you know what? I'm taking whatever is left here, and that was in broilers. That was just indigenous chickens. So I took 10. So that's how I started, basically. So as time went by, growing those chicks basically took about 6 months to grow. Then I was like, hey, yeah, what is this here now? Then I started doing my research. Then I understood that no, man, my interest is on something called a broiler chicken. All right, a broiler chicken. Then I started understanding more about the current chicken that I had at the time. Then that it was indigenous chickens, which takes longer to actually mature and ready for the market. So after that, then I started doing research on the broiler chicken farming. Then I started understanding about the vaccines, how to grow chickens, how long do they take in order for them to be ready for the market. Then my heart was taken by that.
You talk about just understanding how to grow, etc. Was that also your own personal research, or did you go out to speak to other broiler production farmers? Did you get assistance from extension officers, maybe from the Department of Agriculture, just giving you some information on broiler production? How did you come about to learning all these things with regards to broiler production?
Honestly speaking, I did not attend any workshop. I did not go to any Department of Agriculture. Whatever I learned was through the internet, online. The internet should be your best friend when it comes to research. All right. So I learned a lot online, but another thing is, what I did was I said, okay, you know what? Let me challenge myself now. Let me challenge myself. I would say 60% of the knowledge that I have today was through experience. All right. So I said, okay, you know what? Let me challenge myself now. Let me go for these chickens here. Then I bought those chickens. I think I bought about 50, and you name it, everything happened there. Every bad thing happened in that journey, but everything that happened made me understood and learn about how to keep and how to grow chickens. Then I started understanding that, you know what, I'm not just doing chickens because my mom did it before. I'm now in the business of poultry farming. So before getting into a poultry farming industry, you got to understand that it's a business, all right? Because we tend to get people getting into this business here just because they can do it. They think that it's too easy. They can do it. It's I grew up with chickens at home, or my neighbor had chickens running around in the yard. So it's something easy. So they're thinking that it's something easy. So when I started, I thought it was easy. But meanwhile, when I developed that business mentality around chickens, then I realized this is more than just growing chickens. Then I started understanding the business side of it.
So through experience, what are the most practical and fundamental things that an aspirant farmer or one should look at when starting a broiler production?
Well, okay, first of all, you got to understand, you first need to understand under poultry, what forms poultry farming? Because we tend to get people that thinking that poultry farming is all about buying chicks, growing chicks, selling them. All right? That's not about it. Poultry farming, there are ducks in there. There is selling chicken feed. It forms part of poultry business. So you first of all, you need to understand the value chain that forms part of poultry business. And another thing is you got to understand that you're dealing with chickens. Chickens that every 6 months, they have to be ready for the market. And every 6 months, you got to sell all your stock, no matter what. Because the minute you go over not 6 months, 6 weeks, rather, sorry. So every 6 weeks, your chickens got to be out there to the market, and your stock needs to be finished. So the minute you go over that 6 weeks, you got to understand that you are now in between of making a loss or just breaking even. So it's there's a thin line between making profit in poultry and making a loss or breaking even. One mistake, it's all gone, because it's a fast-paced moving business. It's not like a livestock. Livestock, you cannot just load your 10 cows and say, as you're going around with your car selling those 10 cows. But with chickens, you can load 200 chickens, then you can go around and you can sell all your 200 chickens. It's a fast-paced business. Therefore, it requires you as a business holder to think fast as well, to make decision on the spot as well.
Right. So with the small number of chickens that you started, where did you anticipate selling them? So maybe if you could also expand on the different markets available for farmers who have broiler chickens but are just struggling with markets. So where can one start selling?
That's a good question there, Bali. One of the issues that most small scale farmers in poultry is the market, because it's easy to start, it's easy to buy chicks and grow them, but the issue begins when you need to sell those chickens. That's where the issue is. So number one, you got to understand that doing my research, I found out that in South Africa, there's over 60% of people that are actually eating chicken over 4 out of 7 days. So basically, there is a market for chickens. All right. Yeah. Now, number two, how to sell your chickens. How I started was I started selling my chickens around my community. Number one, definitely your community or people around you, they eat chicken, no matter what. So you got to have a selling point as to why should they buy from you and not from the other big companies, your supermarkets? All right. So why should they buy from you? Number one, the issue that you're going to have is that we small scale farmers, we would probably price our chickens at 80 rand a chicken, for example. All right. And then at those big market, I mean, those big stores, they'll probably sell the full chicken at, call it what, 40 rand, 45 rand, the most, about 50 rand. So you gotta have a balance there. You gotta have a selling point. You gotta stand out. You gotta tell your customers as to why should they buy from you at 80 rand and not at 45 rand. So you need to understand that as well. Number two, I don't want to say in order for you to start this business, you gotta have a car. But having a car is essential in this business here. All right, so that's number one. Having a car, because a car allows you to go anywhere at any time, pushing you to sell out your stock. All right, because you will not always wait for customers to come over to your farm looking for chickens. I mean, someone who's in town, they're not gonna leave that full chicken at those stores and to come to your farm and buy an 80 rand chicken, a live chicken that they're still gonna kill and do all of those things. So I think our people needs to walk around and focus more and do a research more on how to break in that market. And you gotta understand there's two markets. It's the formal market and informal market. So you gotta understand that those two markets are different. So pricing your chicken is very important. You cannot price a chicken at 80 rand to formal markets, but you can price a chicken at 80 rand to informal markets. Why? Because informal markets, they don't care about 2 kgs and 3 kgs. They don't care about that. The only thing that they care about is this chicken heavy? When they pick it up, when you go there, mama, I'm selling this chicken here, this lively chicken here. Okay, they're not gonna ask you, okay, what size is that chicken? They don't care about that. They don't know. So what they do is they pick up the chicken. They do like this here. So if the chicken is heavy, they can give you that 80 rand with a smile.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, knowing for the fact that if they go to town, they can get a full chicken at 45 rand. Why? Because the formal markets and informal markets, those are two different markets altogether. That's why you need to price your chickens right.
Yeah, let's talk about that weight, Emmanuel. What does this mean with regards to weight? You said the formal market typically look at weight of the chicken per kilogram, whereas informal market just really wants to feel the actual weight, right? And they don't care whether it's 3 kilograms, like you've alluded to. What does a heavy chicken mean? Does it mean that it's healthier?
A happy chicken is simple question. Simple answer. Happy chicken means it's big, more meat. Yeah.
Okay.
It's big. Basically, the formal market. You'll find that a formal market, for example, I don't know if I can mention these guys, but yeah, a formal market will find that a store will say, okay, Emmanuel, give us 2,000 chickens a week, but those 2,000 chickens, we only want 1.2 kgs. Only 1.2 kgs. All right. So if you give them 2 kg just because you're thinking that they're gonna smile at you, they're gonna be happy, they will tell you, no, we don't want 2 kg. We wanted 1.2 kg. So they are very specific when it comes to a size. That's the formal market, because They're very specific. So as an entrepreneur, you gotta understand now, okay? Because I get a lot of people saying that, you know what, those people are playing us. They wanna buy my chicken at 30 rand. Then I said, you know what? That's a very good deal. Yeah, that's a very good deal. Yeah, but no, man. For yes. So when those guys get deals like that, okay, you know what? For example, Shisanyamas, your restaurant, those guys, they're not looking for a big chicken because their business is so fast in a way that they need a softer chicken that will get cooked very easily. You understand? So they need a 1.2 kg to 1.5 kg the most. So they will tell you, okay, you know what? I need your chicken at 30 rand or 35 rand. If they want to buy it for 35 rand, I mean, that's a jackpot. All right. So what you need to do now as an entrepreneur, you need to calculate your production cost. How much does it cost you to raise chicken from 1 day
to 6 weeks?
Not 6 weeks, because this is formal market. Remember, 1.2 kg, I normally get 1.2 kg to 1.5 kg at 2.5 to 3 weeks. If, yeah, the most is about 3.5 to 4 weeks, the most, not more than that. So that tells you already that, okay, cost per chicken that I raised from day 1 to day 35, or 1 day to 6 weeks, it's gonna differ to a chicken that I raised from day 1 to 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You understand? So you need to calculate. People need to calculate how much does it cost them, because you can actually sell your chickens at any price, depending on what that customer, what size that customer wants. You understand? Because in chicken business, making 5 rand a profit per chicken is very important. Then chasing for 40 rand.
Yeah.
You'll find that people that are chasing for 40 rand, they don't grow. They're probably doing 500 to 1,000 chickens at most. But then you find someone focusing on 5 rand profits per chicken, doing 5,000 to 10,000 chickens per cycle. Very important.
It sounds like this poultry production is quite intensive, more so intensive than vegetable production, you know. And
very.
Yeah, and I think it also, just by what you're saying, it sounds like it's also just a time factor. If you're out by a week or a day or two, you lose out on, you know, the potential revenue, because the chicken or that specific chicken might be heavier, which a client will not want. But you mentioned something quite important there, which I wanted to tap into with regards to the production input costs. I mean, you need to know how much you must price your product, but haven't gone through what are your input costs or operational costs. So maybe can you just highlight, when going into a broiler production business, what type of monthly expenses could one be looking at? Not necessarily the figures, but just some of the checklists that is required within broiler production on a monthly basis. What are the costs looking like?
To produce quality chickens, it's quite costly. All right. First of all, okay, around production cost, because I've noticed that a lot of people do not really check these things yet. The only thing you see when a person thinks of starting a business, more so a chicken business, they're thinking about how much is that chick. Okay, one chick is 7 rand. All right, I'm gonna sell it for 80 rand. Hey, I'm gonna make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But the production cost in between before reaching that 80 rand is a lot, and they don't take those things into their books. So you're looking at chick cost per chick. All right, you're looking at transport from where I am to go and collect those chicks at the farm. You're looking at medication. You're looking at another thing that people don't speak about is shavings. We call it shavings. It's what we put on the floor for our chickens. So that's very, very important. That helps you in making sure that your floor is always dry. Make sure that your chickens do not get sick easily because of the wet floor. So shavings has to be dry all the time. Yes, you might find that you buy a 50 bag of shavings for 35 rand, but if you have, let's call it 1,000 chickens. If you have 1,000 chickens, you might find at times that you change beddings. When I say beddings, I'm talking about shavings. You change shavings twice a day. So meaning you're using about 2 bags a day. So that is already 70 rand a day that you're using. So electric as well. People are not talking about electricity. Electric as well. Because those guys, they need lights. And those lights uses a lot of power. So those guys need lights, warm lights. We call it infrared lights. Those guys need lights. So there's the production cost, that everything that I just mentioned now forms part of production cost. So production cost, what did you do? What did you do in order for you to get your chickens from day 1 to day 35 or 42? What did you do in terms of money? That's production cost. If you're doing everything by yourself, okay, that's -1 cost of salary, of paying someone a salary. But if you're paying someone a salary, that forms part of it as well. So I think it's very important for someone to take a look at all those points when getting into this industry as well.
Wow. And I see that you're still dressed in, your work gear. And does with broiler production, do you have to work throughout the entire day, 24 hours? So must there be someone looking after the broilers during the day as well as night? How does it work? What does a day in your life look like?
Broilers, broilers. They make you work, man. They make you work. Number one, broilers drink water like nobody's business. So, number one, you gotta make sure that they always have water, access to water. All right, they always have access to water. See, when I wake up in the morning, call it 6 o'clock. When I wake up in the morning, from 6 to 8, I'll probably fill up my 10-liter of drinkers 3 times already, because what I do is I always dish up for them around about 11 o'clock in the night and water. Then I let them sleep. So now you must know from 12 o'clock up until 6 o'clock in the morning, they're not eating, they're not drinking water. So by the time you wake up and to go and give them water, they're already thirsty. So with broilers, you gotta make sure that you're hands-on. Have to. Yes, when I started, I was running my business while working 9 to 5. So at that time, I would give them water in the morning, feed in the morning, then only give them again when I come back from work.
Mm.
So then you'll find that my chickens do not reach the required size within 6 weeks. They only reach it on the 8th to 9th week. Why? Because during the day they were not eating because I wasn't around. I was at work. So that's how I started. So whoever wanna start, they can also start while working. All right, just to see how the business goes, just to see can you handle the pressure, because broilers, more especially broilers, comes with a lot of pressure because they are very fragile. All right, they're very sensitive. You gotta handle them with care. So they cannot cope when the coop is dark. When I say coop, the house, when you switch off the lights, they cannot cope on those things. There are a lot of things, you know, right? So they make you always be up in your arms to make sure that it's okay. Sometimes I'll even wake up in the middle of the night, so around about 1 o'clock in the morning, just to go and check up for them, just to look after them for like few minutes and then go back to bed. So broilers are very fragile, that needs your attention all the time.
Wow. Thanks, Emmanuel. I just want to ask you one last question before I get to the questions from the viewers here. What type of environmental factors should one consider when they're looking to go into broiler production? Let's say even, especially like on a small scale farming, because I've tend to see, you know, traveling to and from the farm, I sometimes see a lot of commercial poultry production sites really in the outskirt land. So there's typically nothing around them, you know, and they're like deep in the plots or deep in the farms, quite far from the main road, etc. So for a person watching this live today and wants to start their broiler production or are having challenges in their small scale production, what type of environmental factors should one consider? Can you start broiler production in the township, in your backyard, or does it have to be in a plot, in a farm somewhere, in a quiet space? You know, some people have land back home. Maybe they living in the cities, but they have land back in the rural or peri-urban areas, maybe in mining towns, etc. Are these can these contribute, or really can these environmental factors contribute towards your production success, or maybe digress you from it? But if you could just speak on the environmental factors that is one should consider when starting a broiler production.
Well, basically, in terms of the broiler production, more especially on a small scale, the environment is not really that determining factor as to can you or can you not start a poultry farming. However, the only issue would you have is obviously starting a poultry farming in a township, where, because townships doesn't have people there, they don't have much bigger space. So you'll find that your house is here, maybe few meters away, then the next house is over there as well. And with broilers, more especially with broilers, if you don't clean after them regularly, then you develop a smell. They develop a smell as well. So that will cause you having to be in conflict conversations with your neighbors as well. But when it comes to poultry and the environment, as you said, you would sometimes, while driving around, would find that a poultry plot is right in a deep end where there's like, you know, nothing around. So poultry, when it comes to poultry, there's no determining factor about a specific environment, not like crops where they say, okay, you know what, you gotta have a certain soil in order for you to plant this and that. No, chickens with poultry, there's no such thing as that. It's just that it will be a matter of you having an understanding between you and your neighbor. Because where I am, where I am, there are neighbors around me, but I never got any complaints because why? I always make sure that my chicken coop is always as clean as possible. So yeah, so you have to make sure that your coop is always as clean as possible to make sure that everything, your chickens will be happy, you're gonna be happy, then they're gonna generate revenue for you.
Wow. So moving on to a viewer's question from Iya Similane. Here she's asking, if you have the money to start aiming for R5 a chicken at 10,000 chickens a week, can you help with, or how do we sell that amount? Where and how do we get buyers and contracts for sustainable supply? Yeah, did you get that question, or should I repeat it for you?
Okay. I heard you talking about R5, 10,000, and
yeah, so,
how to get them.
He is mentioning, saying if you have the money to start and you want to aim for that R5 chicken, 10,000 a week. Basically, I think what they're trying to say is that how can you determine the selling amount, and where and how do you get buyers and contracts so that you can get a sustainable supply?
All right. Okay. First of all, for that kind of profit of R5, we have to be pushing out numbers. All right, that's number one. In order for you to aim for the R5 profits, you have to be pushing out numbers, because if you're gonna have 500 chickens, for example, what is R5 times 500? And then you call yourself an entrepreneur. You understand? So you'll be doing it just for fun. So five friends, 5,000 to 10,000 chickens. That's all right. So how do you get customers now? How do you get customers? You can start looking at well-established outlets, not the big ones, because the big ones already have their own suppliers that the supplies them. So if I can mention the name, for example, instead of you going to Checkers or Shoprite or Pick and Pay, rather go to places like a butchery or something. So those people there, they're always waiting for us, small farmers. I'll tell you what, last year I drove around and I went to Checkmart, I went to Checkouts, and I went to Golden Gates. All those guys, they were interested in being supplied by me. The only thing that they mentioned was if I can only respect the religion. So I'm in an area where I'm in an Indian area, basically. So Muslims are the majority people in this area. So basically, so I needed to use what now? I needed to use an abattoir. Well, not just any abattoir, but I needed to use a halal abattoir. So I had to have a proof of that. That's okay. You know what? This chicken here is actually was cut through an halal or a Muslim owned abattoir. So those kind of things. So what I'm trying to say is that those guys are waiting, but obviously you wouldn't want to grow 10,000 chickens without even having those contracts signed. You understand? So you wouldn't want to say, okay, you know what? I have a capital. I'm gonna grow 10,000 chickens. Then when these chickens are ready, that's the only time I'm gonna start looking for buyers. Then you are digging your own grave.
Yeah. I think that's the one thing we preach in farming. Hey, it's just to firstly secure markets before
Yeah,
you can start producing, whether it's livestock, whether it's vegetable crop production, field crops, whether it's poultry. It's always to have to secure your markets, because a lot of people complain about access to markets, and it's simply because most of the time people don't do their market research. They're not sure what price the specific commodity is going for, and they haven't secured that contractual agreement or
absolutely.
interest from a buyer
Absolutely.
to procure your products. But yeah,
And
Emmanuel, yes.
and another thing, Bali, you see, I often get people asking me, I mean, between broilers and layers. I think I've explained this before on Twitter as well, on my thread. Uh, Between broilers and layers, I would say something here. Eggs have a lot of revenue in it.
Mm.
Broilers as well have a lot of revenue in it. But as if someone has 10,000 rands, for example, right, 10,000 rands to start a poultry business, which production is mostly likely to work out between a broiler production or an egg production? I always say it's a broiler production. Then the question is why?
Mm.
Well, if 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 I buy a broiler chick at 1 day old, and you buy an egg layer chick at 1 day old, with, with me on a broiler chick, in 6 weeks time, I'm gonna start selling it. But you, in 6 weeks time, you're still gonna be feeding it, your egg layer chick, because the egg layer takes about 18 to 20 weeks to start producing eggs. All right. And egg layers have a 97% production rate, meaning when they start laying, out of 100 egg layers, you'll get about 95 to 97 eggs a day. All right. So if you get about 97 eggs a day, divided by what, 30, is it 30? 30 eggs, 30 eggs, and how much are you selling it, and plus your production cost and all of those things. So I always say that when you want to start or with egg layers, you got to start big, but with broilers you can always start small.
Mm.
That's my that's how that's what I always say to people. Unless you are willing to start making 200 rand a month profits on egg layers for I don't know how many years. All right. Where else, if you buy even 100 broilers and you're selling at 80 rand, then you can work out your production cost and your profits right there.
Wow. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for your time this evening. Sure, I think I got a lot of notes done, basically on broiler production, that yes, we can start small scale. From an environment perspective, there's not too many restrictions. However, just making sure that, you have a clean and safe space for your broilers to grow, because they're quite sensitive livestock or animals, and just also ensuring that you obviously secure markets, but most importantly, having a grip or being hands-on in your production input costs or your operational expenses, because the profit margins are quite tight, depending
Very
on
tight.
Depending on which market you're selling to. So yeah, I definitely got a great deal from our conversation. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you all the best with your production, and keep on inspiring us and educating us about your type of farming.
Thank you so much, Ambali, for having me tonight. It's been a well informative conversation and podcast. And I wish you nothing but great on your journey as well.
It's a pleasure. I appreciate it. That was Emmanuel Gumede from Khondlo Poultry Farming. He's a founder of Khondlo Poultry Farming. And today we're talking about broiler production, specifically on how he started his businesses. On how he started his business, and what are some of the teething mistakes that he's made over the years since he started his business in 2019. What he's learned, the research that went to him starting his enterprise. And it sounds like he's done quite a lot in those 2 years and learned a great deal. And what I particularly like about Emmanuel is that he's already giving out information. As he's learning throughout his journey, he's sharing his experiences. And if you missed tonight's live, you could definitely catch the live on our YouTube channel after this under the Private Property Farming Podcast playlist. And you could just get to recap on every single point that Emmanuel touched on. He spoke about markets, logistics, the pros and cons of having to sell your chickens to informal market versus formal market, different profit margins, and also spoke about just the type of environment in which you need to ensure that your poultry production or your broiler production becomes a success. So once again, like I said, if you missed this live, you can catch it on our YouTube channel. And also feel free to ask questions there, because we're able to respond on our YouTube channel should you have any questions. But thank you so much for joining us this evening. Wishing everybody a blessed and great long weekend. I think everybody has been working quite hard since the year began. And I hope you find much time to rest and just recharge and reconnect. But most importantly, spending it with family and loved ones, and also being indoors as best as possible. Thank you so much. And I will touch base with you next week, Tuesday. Good night and God bless.